Ancient engineering developments led to the development of ancient technology during the rise of ancient civilizations. These technological advancements throughout history have encouraged communities to adopt new modes of administration and manner of life. Hello, tech geeks! Welcome to the Tech World, your most trustworthy and thoroughly updated channel for all kinds of technological news, scientific discoveries, and inventions, along with a glimpse of the future world. So hurry up and subscribe now, and ring the notification bell to get all the updates. Having said that, let's dive right in. The historical periods before the Middle Ages, which started after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in AD 476, the passing of Justinian I in the 6th century, the arrival of Islam in the 7th century, and the rising of Charlemagne in the 8th century are covered in this article. Medieval technology and inventions in medieval Islam are two resources for technologies created in medieval societies. Archaeological finds occasionally present a different image of our ancient world, confounding scientists and leaving them in a state of shock. Ancient inventions can be revolutionary, providing us with new knowledge about earlier cultures, societies, and technologies. Researchers occasionally come upon innovations that seem to have been far ahead of their time, with some of them being so difficult to replicate even now with current technology. 1. Antikythera mechanism. Scholars were utterly baffled when the Antikythera mechanism was originally found, and with good reason. The small, physically distinct Greek island of Antikythera, which is sandwiched between the more well-known islands of Kythera and Crete, is where this ancient artifact was first discovered. Divers searching for sponges in sunken wreckage in 1901 discovered the apparatus. Divers discovered wonderfully preserved artifacts on the debris that was about 2,200 years old. Nothing too unusual, that is, until they came across a lump covered in a greenish encrustation. The Antikythera mechanism might not seem like anything special at first view. It resembles a rock with moldy areas. However, if you look closer, you'll notice functional gears and components that mimic an ancient clock. Upon its discovery, a few groups of scholars were inclined to refer to the object as a component of an antiquated computer, although this was first discounted. The 1970s and 1990s saw the beginning of the unraveling of the Antikythera mystery. And what's this? A computer was involved. In essence, the theory holds that it was a component of an antiquated analog computer that had bronze components and was kept in a wooden box. The ability of the ancient innovation to replicate the motions of the heavens has led to speculation that it was utilized for travel. The contraption would not have been any larger than your mantle clock at home. However, it would show celestial time instead of conventional time, utilizing the planets as a reference. The strange thing about this device is that we wouldn't have found as many if it were widely used. We have not yet discovered anything as sophisticated and modern in the field of archaeology. 2. Baghdad battery. One of the most contentious historical innovations on this list is without a doubt this one. And to make matters worse, the antique device was taken in 2003 and has never been recovered. The Baghdad battery, commonly referred to as the Parthian battery, is a 2,000-year-old antique artifact that might have been a prehistoric battery. A German archaeologist found the antiquated device in 1983 in Kujut Rabu, a region just outside of Baghdad. You can locate an iron rod and a copper cylinder within the clay jar. The battery would produce roughly 1 volt of energy if a weak acid, such as vinegar or even grape juice, were to be added to the clay jar. That is uncertain at the moment. In reality, archaeologists have only ever discovered one battery, and to make matters worse, the precise purpose of the jar has never been described in writing. But there are a few widely accepted ideas among experts regarding the historic invention. It is possible that goods were electroplated using the Baghdad battery, which involves depositing one metal layer on top of another. Another hypothesis is that the object was utilized during religious rituals. The battery was used to shock believers into faith. The Baghdad battery's actual function, however, is still unknown, and there is no convincing justification in sight. 3. Automated doors. When automated door technology first appeared in 1931, it was regarded as one of the hallmarks of the modern era. However, this technology had previously been around from the year 1 AD. A fire would need to be lit to generate heat, which would cause an atmospheric buildup in brass vessels, making it possible to open the door. The holding containers would then be filled with water by this vessel, and the functions would act as weights to open the door. Consider it to be a hydraulic system. Sadly, the doors were less useful and more uncommon than the contemporary doors you see all around your city. The old doors took hours to open, and once they started, it was difficult to stop. This implied that you probably only opened your doors once every day. 4. Hufeng Didong Yi. The ability to identify earthquakes before they occur is becoming more and more sophisticated each year, saving lives in the process. The technology might not be all that new, though. The Hufeng Didong Yi, a seismoscope, was the first earthquake detecting tool known to history, and it dates back to 2,000 years ago in ancient China. Zhang Heng was the one who invented the tool. The Chinese Renaissance man, sometimes known as the Leonardo da Vinci of China, was an innovator, astronomer, engineer, scientist, scholar, and artist. Though his lengthy list of contributions and successes are all deserving of notice, his seismoscope takes the prize. Remote earthquake detection from hundreds of kilometers away was possible with the Hufeng Didong Yi. The gadget was a jar with 8 tubed projections in the form of dragon heads on the outside and 8 similar toads at the base. The toads each stood for a direction that the seismic wave was moving in. The antique device would drop the ball in one of the toads to show the direction of a distant earthquake. Even stranger is the assertion made by Zhang Heng that earthquakes are generated by wind and air. Air is the primary source of earthquakes, since it naturally moves quickly from one location to another. As long as it remains still and skulks in an empty area, it rests innocently and causes no problem to the items in the area. When the opportunity to flee is lost, however, it is roused by an external force, compressed, and forced into a small space. At that point, it roars fiercely around the barriers, tossing them into the air after a protracted battle, growing more ferocious the more formidable the obstacle. How did he discover a way to locate earthquakes remotely? Researchers are still perplexed by this issue because no one has been successful in effectively recreating a working gadget. 5. The armored car. It's easy to see how a lot of Leonardo da Vinci's concepts would be included, but because of the constraints of the period, many of them, like his armored cars, were never realized. All of the things, from the diving suit to the parachute, would be adequate. Furthermore, hundreds of years after his creation, Da Vinci's innovations including the ball bearing, parachute, machining gun, and revolving bridge are still in use. One of our favorite of his old creations was the armored automobile. The armored vehicle, which could have been a forerunner of the tank, would have been armed with cannons and mobile in all directions. 6. Greek fire. One of the most iconic images from Game of Thrones is the Battle of Blackwater, where the outcome of the conflict was decided by a fierce green fire that was uncontrollable by water and continued to burn indefinitely. What if I told you that some of this conflict is based on real events? Greek fire was a destructive invention from antiquity that was crucial to the Crusades. The fire was first created in 672 AD by the Eastern Roman Empire and was known by a variety of names, including sea fire, Roman fire, and war fire. The military device had its historical debut when the Muslims, the Byzantines' present adversaries, assaulted them with a sizable maritime fleet. Greek fire was unlike anything the attacking force had ever seen, consuming ships, people, and even burning on top of the ocean. The Greeks used fire to figuratively hose down their adversaries. Here's the end of the video. Are you excited to know more about such things? Do let us know in the comments down below, and we will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching till the end.